Tons of activity in the courts when it comes to challenges against Illinois' gun ban, and among those is the efforts to possibly consolidate three cases into a state-level case that was transferred to federal court, and that's the first case filed in state court in Crawford County. Good morning. It is Springfield's Morning News. I think now there's 8, maybe 9 different lawsuits out there in multiple courts, jurisdictions that just deal with Illinois' gun ban. There are other cases involving the state's firearm owner identification card, which we've got to get to the latest of at some point. We've also got cases against other laws sprinkled all throughout the state, including in Chicago and elsewhere. But our focus really has been the statewide law banning the sale and possession of certain types of semi-automatic weapons and magazines over a certain capacity. So what some of the latest happenings are in McHenry County yesterday, the court there, they moved that state level case to the federal courts. So we'll see where exactly that ends up, with the judge possibly being assigned soon in that case. But in separate cases in federal court, Illinois State Police, they made a motion to consolidate into the Crawford County case last week. The chief U.S. district judge there, an Obama appointee, actually then reassigned 2 of those cases to a Trump-appointed judge. They said that that's because the Trump-appointed judge had the Illinois State Rifle Association's case, which was the first in the series of federal cases filed. And since it was the first of the federal cases filed, the Crawford County case, while the Crawford County case was filed in state court first, it was transferred to federal court after the Illinois State Rifle Association's lawsuit was filed. So the Trump-appointed judge going to maintain control over those federal cases in the Southern District. Some of the observers in this seeing this as a win because they feel they'll get a more favorable ruling challenging Illinois' gun law with this Trump-appointed judge, Stephen McGlynn. So that's the judge that's going to oversee the State Rifle Association's case, the Federal Firearms Licensees of Illinois' case, the Harrell case, which I think that's the ISRA. There's another one, Barnett, that is the National Shooting Sports Foundation. So those are 3 cases: ISRA, the FFL-IL, and the National Shooting Sports Foundation, consolidated into the Crawford County case that was transferred to federal court. So we'll have a Trump-appointed judge handle those cases. But you've also got a whole host of other cases in state courts that we're still waiting for a temporary restraining order out of White County. You've got a temporary restraining order in a federal case that's still pending in the Naperville case that has wrapped in all of Illinois, with the federal judge in that Naperville case noticing the states that they are a defendant in that case. But when I talked with Illinois State Rifle Association's Ed Sullivan yesterday, he said that there's a lot of ideas and a lot of things floating, but really, some of the other things that might happen outside of Illinois in other courts. Here he is.
So what we've been watching since the Bruin decision is multiple lawsuits that have been remanded back to the courts because of the Bruin decision, basically saying your 2-step process on saying whether a challenge is legal or not is no longer valid based on Bruin, which thinks 2 steps is one too many. So specifically as it relates to Illinois, we have multiple federal lawsuits and multiple state lawsuits that we have seen go forward. We've seen the Attorney General and state police try to go venue shopping in regard to trying to pick out the most favorable judge, it would seem, and combine these lawsuits. But in the background, what we should be watching is what else is taking place throughout the country on semi-automatic firearm bans. Specifically, I think we should watch the Maryland case that is the farthest along. I believe it's the farthest along. And what happens in that case at the federal level will certainly influence what happens in Illinois. And so while I know a lot of people want to focus in Illinois because we're the ones that are the most recent to have their constitutional rights challenged, or infringed, I guess is the best way to put it. we also have to keep an eye on the prize elsewhere as well, because what happens elsewhere certainly can influence what happens here. So I think Maryland's the most obvious target for us to keep an eye on.
So in that Maryland case, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit, they did hear oral arguments December 6th. It's still unclear when there will be a ruling rendered. So again, that's some analysis looking at, a lot of tracking of all of these federal cases and state cases in Illinois. But you've got a case in other federal courts across the country that are a little bit more ahead of where Illinois is at, which could be determinative of what happens with Illinois federal courts as well. So that's kind of an overview. A little bit later on, we will cover the back and forth over a case in Macon County that was filed by State Representative Dan Calkins and attorney Thomas DeVore intervening in that case. I talked to DeVore yesterday. I also talked to Calkins' attorney, Jerry Stock, and we'll hear both sides of an interesting argument that's being made in the Macon County state level case. So stay tuned for that here with Springfield's Morning News on WMAY.